Hello everyone and welcome back to the Outdoor Channel. We're at the back of the truck today with another hitch from Safe Hitches. Now it's a really special day because we get to be part of a new release. This is a brand new hitch from Safe Hitches. We're one of the first channels to be able to bring this out to you. And from what I understand, it has 4 improvements from the previous hitch. So this is a continuation of our tow series. We started off with Boost Auto Parts towing mirrors. We had the Arrow hitch, which is their economy hitch from Safe Hitches. Now again, we have a brand new one here that we're going to bring to you here in just a moment. So stay tuned.
Welcome to the outdoors. Welcome to the outdoors.
We're going to start by taking a closer look at the hitch itself. Now, if you look at this packaging and the aluminum hitch that's here, it may look a little familiar because they already have an aluminum hitch. Again, this is a new and improved version of that. Opening up the box, looks like we've got some hardware here. And it looks like it's the lock that goes from the drop hitch to the ball. Now this is a nice big honking drop hitch here. Actually, it's quite light. We're going to put this on a scale in a minute and see what it weighs. Now, they make different lengths of this. Some of your more popular ones are going to be 4 or 6 inches. They also have an 8, and they've got a 10. In the case you saw a moment ago with the truck, that's a lifted truck. I actually can make use all the way down to the bottom because I've got a boat. Hangs out somewhere here in the middle, and I've got a small camper that hangs out somewhere down here towards the bottom. But again, they offer different sizes. This is the biggest one that they make. Okay, I see. So one of the improvements here is what you're reading right in this. They've got some kind of fluid that they've put inside the scale here. And if you look closer, you actually can see that. It almost looks like there's almost something wrong with it, but that's actually on purpose. And what Safe is saying is that's going to help with the longevity of this gauge that's in here. One of the other improvements that they've made is they've increased the distance of the base here. That's supposed to make this a little bit more stable. And if I'm understanding right, they have increased the plate size of the scale in here to get a better reading. So that's 3 of the 4 improvements that they made. The last one is, and we're going to try this out, they've made this a little bit more rounded here in the shank. So it should fit a receiver a little bit more snug. Additionally, with the kit here, we've got another size ball. So you get 2 balls with this, no pun intended. You get a 2-inch and a 2 and I think it's 5/16. This is just some extra padding. And then of course there is the locking mechanism we looked at a moment ago. Just like in the previous gen hitch, changing out the ball is a matter of pulling this tab that's right in here. Something like that. And we can take this larger ball out. And in my case, all I need is the 2-inch ball. And it is locked into place. Really easy to change that out. As far as the lock here, turn the key turns and articulates that part of the mechanism there, just like that. And this, of course, slides up and down. I'm just going to use the bottom position here. Okay, you just learned something with me. There's an orientation to this piece here. It will not let you put it in backwards. And now everything is locked and secure. Just like on our last review, we're going to do some measurements and some weights. We're going to go ahead and start with measurements. And I'm going to remind everyone that this is a 10-inch drop, and we actually have 13 inches here. That's important because there's some material here we have to consider in that 10-inch drop. To demonstrate that, I'm going to go ahead and load this up. This is the topmost position here. We'll just drop that in temporarily. And we know that this is flush here. So if I take this from its topmost position and I bring it all the way down to its bottommost position, and again, we'll go ahead and temporarily seat it here. I'll need to measure from here to here. And if that's 10 inches, we actually have a full 10-inch drop. And I know the lock mechanism is blocking a little bit, but you can see we've got a full 10 inches there. Now, the reason why that's important, because some hitch companies don't consider this distance here when they say they have a drop. So they may say, hey, I have a 6-inch drop, but when you have whatever your ball is mounted to, it may be 5.5, it might be some other number. Here again, we have the full 10 inches as advertised. This is supposed to be a 2-inch shank. And as you can see, we're just under 2 inches, as we should. Some nice rounded edges here. And if I go turn the camera here a little bit. And again, 2 inches as expected, or actually just under 2 inches. We've gone ahead and borrowed the wife's kitchen scale here, and we've got pounds and ounces. Now, we did do a full review of the Arrow hitch from WaveSafe Hitches. This is a smaller version, and it's also made out of steel, and believe it or not, this is heavier than this aluminum version we're about to weigh. So let's go ahead and start that. There we go. We'll call that 8 pounds and 10 ounces. Seven and 4.5. And if we add the supplied lock here, we'll call that 7 and 11. So that's 16 pounds and 5 ounces. This is a comparison between the new aluminum hitch and the Arrow hitch, both by WaveSafe. As you can see, they both have the built-in scale. Oddly enough, they both have a 12,500 pound capacity. They both have 2 different ball options, although the ball options are completely different. You saw a moment ago, we can pull this one out and completely change the ball out to the larger size. This is a nifty clamshell with a magnet, and this just goes over the ball like that. In this case, they're both 10-inch hitches. This has a single point locking mechanism here. This has a 2-point locking mechanism here. All right, we're going to go ahead and install this. It'll install like pretty much any other hitch. Notice there's two positions here like most hitches. And actually it's got a pretty nice tight fit. There's a little bit of play in there, but not as much as some of the other hitches that are out there. And again, that's one of the improvements that they've made on this. Nice tight fit on the lock. And there we have it. That looks and feels pretty good. Now, just as a comparison, we'll put that arrow hitch back on. Well, this isn't bad. It's not really any worse than any other hitch. It certainly has a little bit more play than this one does. So well done. I think that's one of the nice improvements that they've made. And changing the height of your ball is actually pretty simple. Pull that out. This just slides very nicely up and down. And I'm just going to pick one here. And there you go. And let's not forget the cap. All right, you saw we now have the boat hooked up to the new WaySafe aluminum hitch and onto the truck. And we can see that the scale reads roughly 300 pounds. Now I'm a little off because this boat, motor, and trailer, the way it sits, is about 3,500 pounds. And the recommended 10% tongue weight, 3,500 pounds, should be about 350 pounds, and I'm about 300. So I'm a little bit under where I should be, which tells me I should try to make a few changes. Now in my particular case, this is a tandem axle trailer with a boat that probably only really needs a single axle, and so I'm probably a little over trailered, and that's the way I bought it from the dealer. I really can't do much to take that boat and shift it forward to add a little more tongue weight. Maybe I can move some of the gear inside to bring the weight forward a little bit. But that's pretty much how this works. So why does any of this even matter? Well, in a conventional hitch like this, whether it's a WaySafe hitch or another brand's hitch, you want between 10 and 15% tongue weight. Well, what is tongue weight? Well, we've got some weight here in a trailer transferred through the tongue here, which is this part right here, onto the truck. And the truck has a payload that it can carry. This particular truck, it's a little over 1,500 pounds. I've got 300 pounds consumed. The rest of my payload is 1,200 pounds. So that's something you need to consider. Another thing that I noticed between a difference of the new aluminum hitch versus the arrow hitch, when I did the exact same experiment, same truck, same trailer, same spot here in the garage, the boat hasn't moved, and I did it with this, I only got a reading of 200 pounds. And when I did it with the aluminum hitch, I was around 300 pounds, which is right around where I should be. So what that tells me, although I think this arrow hitch is a fantastic hitch, especially for the price point, at a lower weight, it's not quite as accurate as the nicer, more expensive hitch. So something to keep in mind, there's a pretty big price point difference between the two. If you're towing something probably a little bit heavier, probably not at all going to be a problem, but just something that I noticed between these two hitches. Now, a moment ago, we were talking about a 10 to 15% tongue weight. In the case of my boat trailer, 10% is my target. However, this is my Jayco camper, and this would be an example where you maybe want to get away with 15%. And that's because this particular camper, and well, really not just this camper, but many campers have propane tanks. Some have one, some have two, some smaller, some taller. Some have batteries. Some may have an electric winch instead of my little manual one. Point being, a lot of campers have more weight here in this A-frame or tongue portion of the camper, which would give you a little bit more weight to transfer to your vehicle. In this particular example, a 15% tongue weight would be more acceptable. If you're somewhat new to towing, we talked about a tandem axle trailer, and that's what you see here. There's two axles instead of one. Now, in my particular case, this boat, again, probably only needs one axle to handle the weight that's here, and there's very little I can do to shift the boat forward or backwards to adjust my tongue weight. So I pretty much got it right where it's going to be, and if I want to make any further adjustments, I'm going to have to go inside and maybe move some things around. So some things we'll have to work through. But coming back to why, again, all this is important when we're talking about tongue weight. Well, that hitch, as we saw, has a capacity of 12,500 pounds. Does that mean that you can tow 12,500 pounds? Well, the hitch will, but that doesn't mean that your tow vehicle will. So manufacturers, whether you're a Ford guy, a GM guy, a Ram guy, you know, the marketing people do their work. They tell you which truck's got the best tow number, and just going to tell you that's only a piece of the puzzle. What you really need to consider when towing is your payload capacity. So if I put 12,500 pounds in this truck, I am not only over my tow capacity, which I think in this truck's 9,200 pounds, I'm going to be over my payload capacity. So here's how that works. Most vehicles today, and for the last handful of years, have a door sticker or a door plate. If you have an older vehicle, you may need to go to your owner's manual. You may need to go online and look it up. I'm going to zoom in here real quick. So there's mine, 1,551 pounds. That is the payload capacity of this particular truck. It's a little bit more than some vehicles, a little bit less than others. It's a half-ton truck. It's an off-road truck, so I have a little bit softer suspension. That's what this can tow. So let's do some real basic math. 1,551 pounds of payload capacity. I've got some tools in the truck, a jack, hand tools, socket set. Let's just say I got 51 pounds in there, keep the math simple. I've got 1,500 pounds left. You saw a moment ago, we hooked up a trailer that occupies 300 pounds according to that scale. I am now down to 1,200 pounds. If I put one person in there, a driver, at 200 pounds, I'm now down to 1,000 pounds. If I put four people at 200 pounds apiece, you know, 4 adults, maybe we're going somewhere, we're going on a fishing trip, what have you, it comes down quite a bit less. If I go through and I fill the bed of the truck and I put all kinds of stuff in there, gear, luggage, coolers full of ice, what have you, let's say it's another 200 pounds, well, I'm not sure I've got any room left. And that's with the trailer that weighs 3,500 pounds. If I do all that and I got a trailer that, you know, is 9,200 pounds, let's keep the math simple, 9,000 pounds. Gives me a 900 pound tongue weight. You can see here on the screen when I got the numbers showing, we're pretty far overloaded. So max tow capacity, again, is a piece of the puzzle. You really got to consider what the payload capacity is and then do the math from there. WaySafe also has an app that you can get for either your iPhone or Android device. Get it wherever you get your apps from. You can punch in information about your tow vehicle, what kind of hitch that you have, and again, they have a few different style hitches here you can look at, and whatever it is you're towing. Punch in the tow weight that comes off of your particular scale here, and it'll tell you, you can see the yellow there, my 3,500 pound trailer with a 300 pound tongue weight is a little underweight. If I were to put that to where it really should be, if I move the weight around a little bit, I am now within the appropriate range, that 10 to 15% that is recommended. So you don't have to use the app, but it's kind of a neat tool. If you're new to towing, it might be useful in keeping you safe. As we're wrapping things up, I do want to tell you we have a long-term tow test coming up with this particular hitch. We're going from my neck of the woods, which is a little north of Chicago, all the way up into Canada, and it's going to be about a 1,200 mile, maybe 1,300 mile round trip, and we're going to put this hitch through its paces and see how well it does. In the meantime, that wraps up the initial review. I'll leave the WaySafe link below in the description. You guys can check them out. And like and subscribe if you haven't already. We got a lot more of this content coming. We will see you soon.